Internet, Eric here. Today's collection video was an idea that I it came from a concept I threw to my friend Chris from Two Vloggers More. I've mentioned him before. I did a calling out video on him before. Just go to the home page of this channel, click on featured channels, Two Vloggers More. That's the easiest way to find him without just typing in Two Vloggers More. And there is a piece of dust floating right in front of my face. Okay, it's always something when I'm filming shit in my basement. Anyways, he's a big wrestling fan, just like me. And it goes back to like the 80s and 90s as well. And I threw an idea around to him. I asked him, what would you think if maybe I started doing reviews or just give my thoughts on certain wrestling pay-per-views, like the ones that I owned? And he thought it was a great idea. So I decided, why not show off my collection? I'm going to show off just the pay-per-views I have, not like best ofs or documentaries, just the regular pay-per-views or super cards as they're called or anything like that. I'm going to start today with my WWF/WWE collection, and eventually I'll get to ECW and TNA, excuse me, and then eventually there's just like the lesser known ones like XPW, CZW, and any other random like deathmatch tournaments that I have just sitting on my shelves. And this is just the beginning of this collection. I have a shit ton still on VHS, but I found some people that can help me upgrade, even though some of them haven't ever been put on DVD. But for now, I'm just going to talk about what I have at the moment. I'm not going to get too into the entire card. I might just pull out, a couple important matches or stuff that I remember off the top of my head. Anyways, here is my WWF WWE pay-per-view collection. WrestleMania 3. As you can see, it was the main event of Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, where he body slammed Andre and pinned him. We also have the classic Intercontinental Championship match between Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And let's see here. Yeah, that's it. We'll talk about. Oh, hair versus hair match. Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis. We have WrestleMania 17. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. TLC 2 match. TLC match is tables, ladders, and chairs are legal. Dudley Boys versus Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys. And a street fight match, Shane McMahon versus Mr. McMahon. WWF Invasion. This is where WCW and ECW got together to try to take over and destroy the WWF. See, the inaugural brawl, Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, Rhino and the Dudley Boys versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho, and The Undertaker and Kane. Hardcore Championship match, Jeff Hardy versus Rob Van Dam. And like I said, there's more. I'm just throwing out some certain matches that I remember being good. And when I get to these actual reviews, if I, give it a... I'm not Dave Meltzer or anybody. I don't do 5-star matches. I just say what's good and what sucked. Hopefully, maybe it's a pay-per-view that you've never seen. And if you have the WWE Network, you'll go check it out. Just based on my recommendations. SummerSlam. Obviously, Brock Lesnar challenging The Rock for the title. We have a non-sanctioned match, Shawn Michaels versus Triple H, and Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle. I remember that being a really great pay-per-view opener. Survivor Series. The first Elimination Chamber match, Triple H, Chris Jericho, Kane, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, and Shawn Michaels. This also had a WWE Championship match, Brock Lesnar versus Big Show, and a really good Women's Championship Hardcore match, Trish Stratus versus Victoria. Victoria, I miss watching Victoria wrestle. She was great, especially as a heel. Loved her. WrestleMania 19. Street fight between Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon. I didn't show the back of the other ones. Yeah, fuck it. I don't know if I'm going to show the back or anyway. WWE Championship match, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin's last match, I believe. We'll leave it at that. SummerSlam. You got Sable naked on the cover for no reason. That's okay. Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Goldberg, Shawn Michaels, and Kevin Nash. We'll leave it at that. Another Survivor Series. World Heavyweight Championship match, Goldberg versus Triple H. Buried Alive match, Undertaker versus Mr. McMahon. I remember Mr. McMahon's face just covered in gushing blood. Alright. Royal Rumble. Every Royal Rumble has a 30-man over-the-top battle royal. So I'm not going to always say that. This also has World Heavyweight Championship, Last Man Standing, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels. And we'll say World Tag Team Championship Tables match, Dudley Boyz versus Ric Flair and Batista. And for some reason, Hardcore Holly got a shot at Brock Lesnar's WWE Championship. That's very random. WrestleMania 20. This had Undertaker returning to fight Kane. Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero. And then the classic triple threat match with Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. That is one of the best triple threat matches I have ever seen, and I'll get into it when I finally review it. We have Backlash, which followed WrestleMania. The rematch, Chris Benoit, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. I love this match. Hardcore match for the Intercontinental Championship. Randy Orton versus Cactus Jack. I remember Randy Orton bleeding like crazy, going through thumbtacks. And I think this was like the last time I actually really liked Randy Orton, when he was doing the Legend Killer gimmick. I haven't really given a shit about him since. SmackDown only pay-per-view. No Mercy. Let's say last ride match for the WWE Championship. JBL versus Undertaker. And that's it. Who cares? Royal Rumble. I like this cover because it's got Raw and SmackDown on it, and it's like West Side Story. So other than that match, we also have World Heavyweight Championship match, Triple H versus Randy Orton, and a casket match, Undertaker versus Heidenreich. I wonder who wins that. WrestleMania 21. We got World Heavyweight Championship match, Triple H versus Batista. Let's see here. This is where the Money in the Bank ladder match first debuted. Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit versus Shelton Benjamin versus Edge versus Christian versus Kane. Winner earns future World Heavyweight title shot. And Legend versus Legend Killer, Undertaker versus Randy Orton, among others. Judgment Day. WWE I Quit Championship match, John Cena versus JBL. I think this is the one where Cena and JBL bleed like crazy. Back when, they can actually bleed and you didn't have the, me and my buddies called it the oh shit squad, when they would, the doctors would scoop in and like put towels over their faces just to stop the bleeding. And let's see here. Cruiserweight Championship of the world, Paul London versus Chavo Guerrero. I'm sure that will be good because Chavo was a fantastic cruiserweight. Which is basically someone under 220 pounds. Excuse my arm. Just trying to get room for my DVDs because I got quite a bit more. Yeah, that's what cruiserweight means. Lots of high-flying stuff. And Paul London's fantastic. This SummerSlam. The reason why I'm disappointed is because it's Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels. And I'm not disappointed because it's Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels. I'll get to it more in my review. It's Shawn Michaels just oversold everything on purpose, and he turned the match into a fucking cartoon, and I hated it. Let's see, we also got No Holds Barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship, Batista versus JBL, and the ladder match for the custody of Rey Mysterio Jr.'s son, Dominic. Ladder match, Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. That was a really good ladder match. Loved the ladder match. Survivor Series. Last Man Standing, Ric Flair versus Triple H. And we have Team Raw, Shawn Michaels, Kane, Big Show, Carlito, and Chris Masters versus Team SmackDown, Batista, Randy Orton, JBL, Rey Mysterio, and Lashley. I remember Shawn Michaels just pulling out a hell of a performance at that. I remember just that match alone was fantastic. Armageddon, Batista looking all scary. See, Hell in a Cell match, Undertaker versus Randy Orton. The Mexicools versus Eminem. I'm not going to explain those names at all. Cruiserweight Championship match, Juventud versus Kid Cash. I'm assuming that's going to be a crazy high-flying one. Royal Rumble. Okay, other than the Royal Rumble match, we have Kurt Angle versus Mark Henry for the World Heavyweight Championship. And JBL versus the Boogeyman. And a few other matches that I'm sure the only reason to watch that is for the Royal Rumble. At least it sounds like it. WrestleMania 22. Okay. Fantastic hardcore match. Mick Foley versus Edge. Called by Joey Styles. I just got some... Sorry about that. Something flew out of my mouth. Called by Joey Styles. And then another fucking piece of dust flew by. It's always something when I'm doing these videos. Hardcore match. Mick Foley versus Edge. Called by Joey Styles. Barbed wire. Blood and guts. Flaming tables. And then we also have Money in the Bank. Ladder match. Ric Flair, Rob Van Dam, Shelton Benjamin, Matt Hardy, Finlay, and Bobby Lashley. Casket match. Undertaker and Mark Henry. And that's all we'll get into. SummerSlam. We have WWE Championship match. Edge versus John Cena. They always put great matches together. ECW World Championship match. This is after Vince McMahon had bought ECW and brought it back and made it a federation again. World Champion Big Show defends against Sabu. Degeneration X versus the McMahons. Legend versus Legend Killer. Hulk Hogan versus Randy Orton. And a fantastic bloody I Quit match between Ric Flair and Mick Foley. Survivor Series of that year. Quickly, First Blood match, Undertaker versus Mr. Kennedy. And we got two traditional Survivor Series elimination matches that I won't get into, but I will say traditional Survivor Series matches with some of the legends. We have the Spirit Squad, who are a bunch of fucking cheerleaders, male cheerleaders, but they take on the legends, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Ron Simmons, and Sergeant Slaughter. So for all you nostalgic wrestling fans, you got some 70s and 80s wrestlers showing up. Armageddon. Real quickly, Inferno match versus Kane, which is Kane versus MVP. An Inferno match is you don't win until you set your opponent on fire. And a last ride match, Undertaker versus Mr. Kennedy. We'll just leave it at that because there wasn't anything else important. Royal Rumble. Last man standing match for the WWE Championship. John Cena versus Umaga. I loved Umaga. He's one of the many people who have passed away over the last 10 years. He was just a Samoan beast, World Heavyweight Championship, Batista versus Mr. Kennedy. And we have ECW Championship match, Bobby Lashley versus Test. WrestleMania 23. Yes, that is Donald Trump. WWE Championship match, John Cena versus Shawn Michaels. I'm sure that was a fantastic match. World Heavyweight Championship match, Batista versus The Undertaker. I remember that match stealing the show. And then we have Battle of the Billionaires. Okay, hair versus hair. The loser, there's Donald Trump, and he's being represented by Bobby Lashley. And then there's Vince McMahon, who's being represented by Umaga. Whoever loses, that billionaire of that person gets their head shaved. Take a guess who it is. But yes, that is current president and WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump at a WrestleMania. Backlash the following month. Let's see here real quickly. Last man standing match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Undertaker versus Batista. And a fatal four-way match for the WWE Championship. John Cena, Shawn Michaels, Edge, Randy Orton, among others. We have WWE One Night Stand. Now, when Vince bought ECW, he got a reunion show thanks to the idea of Rob Van Dam of the ECW originals coming back and putting on a pay-per-view. Highly successful. And what happened was, it was so successful they had a second one. And then that was when Vince bought ECW and was bringing it back as a brand, actually. And he just eventually kept the one-night stand pay-per-views going. And he involved SmackDown, Raw, and ECW. And he made all of the matches stipulation matches. So, one-night stand. Here we have a street fight for the world title, ECW. Mr. McMahon versus Bobby Lashley. Stretcher match, Rob Van Dam versus Randy Orton. Six-man tables match, CM Punk, Tommy Dreamer, and Sandman versus Elijah Burke, Marcus Corvon, and Matt Striker, among others. Royal Rumble, we're at 2008 now. Anything worth talking about? WWE Championship match, Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. Interesting. World Heavyweight Championship match, Edge versus Rey Mysterio. Okay. I'm sure that would be decent. I hate this cover, but No Way Out. We hit this one. We have 2 Elimination Chamber matches. Raw, we have Triple H, Jeff Hardy, Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, JBL, and Umaga. SmackDown and ECW is combined. Batista, Great Khali, Big Daddy V, MVP, Finlay, and The Undertaker. World Heavyweight Championship match, Edge versus Rey Mysterio, among others. Judgment Day. Real quick. World Championship, WWE Championship match, John Cena versus Great Khali. World Heavyweight Championship, Edge versus Batista. Vengeance, Night of Champions. This is interesting because match to determine the ECW World Champion. Johnny Nitro versus CM Punk. It was actually supposed to be Chris Benoit versus CM Punk. But this was the weekend when Chris Benoit snapped and killed his wife and child and himself. Yeah. WWE Championship Challenge. John Cena, Bobby Lashley, Mick Foley, Randy Orton, and King Booker. I absolutely hated Booker T when he was the King gimmick. Anything else? A WWE Championship match. Deuce and Domino, who are greasers, versus Jimmy Snuka and Sergeant Slaughter. I remember this being a really good pay-per-view all around for like just an offshoot pay-per-view. More One Night Stand, Extreme Rules. Real quick. Singapore Cane match. Big Show, CM Punk, Tommy Dreamer, John Morrison, and Chavo Guerrero. First Blood match. John Cena versus JBL. An I Quit match between 2 women, Melina and Beth Phoenix. Last Man Standing, Triple H versus Randy Orton. I think this is the one where Randy Orton broke his collarbone, getting thrown over the top rope. And this was a really good match. TLC match, Undertaker versus Edge. Like I said, TLC means tables, ladders, and chairs are legal. SummerSlam, Maria looking pretty. Just no reason for her to be put on the cover, but whatever. Real quick. Hell in a Cell, Undertaker versus Edge. That's all we'll talk about. More Extreme Rules. Let's see here. Steel Cage match for the WWE Championship. Randy Orton versus Batista. Ooh, a ladder match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Edge versus Jeff Hardy. Very good ladder match wrestlers. Triple Threat Hardcore Rules for the ECW Championship. Christian, Tommy Dreamer, and Jack Swagger. Among others. 2 left. WrestleMania. There's no 2015. There's no. It's a slipcover. I hate slipcovers. There's no match listing on the back. So we have. Okay, it says it on the discs. We have the Intercontinental Championship ladder match. Bad News Barrett, Daniel Bryan, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, Stardust, and Luke Harper. I remember this being very brutal. Nothing important. Nothing important. Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. Sting versus Triple H. And Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. I remember this being a really good WrestleMania. This was only for like a few years ago. This is where Sting finally made his WrestleMania, his WrestleMania debut, his WWE debut, in a match. Really good. Two left. SummerSlam, 2015. As you can see, Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker. No match listing on the back other than that. So, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper. Oh, Neville and Stephen Amell from the show Arrow takes on Stardust and King Barrett. Go fucking figure. Alright, last one. TLC became its own pay-per-view. 2015. We got, again, no match listing, so I'm going to try to figure it out. Roman Reigns versus Sheamus in a tables, ladders, and chairs match. Looks like Kevin Owens versus Dean Ambrose. And a ladder match. I remember this fantastic ladder match. New Day defend their tag team championships against the Lucha Dragons and the Usos. So there. Hopefully I didn't bore you enough. Hopefully you might be interested in future reviews of these pay-per-views. Hopefully I didn't just ramble for 21 minutes and you got bored and shut it off. So, yeah, new concept. I threw it around. I got some positive comments about it. So I don't know when I'll do it. And like I said, I'll eventually get to ECW and TNA and the other stuff if this takes off in a positive way. So, yeah, that's my WWF, WWE collection. Thank you. Like and subscribe. Share. Click the fucking bell. Whatever. Cheers. And I miss wrestling of this era.